self-sabotage dovetails nicely with our section here on self-sabotage that I'd love to go into. This is from, I think, The Laws of Human Nature. The attitude is, if we are fearful, we see negative in every circumstance. We don't take chances. We blame others for mistakes. If we are suspicious or negative, we make others feel those same emotions. Then we create those outcomes for ourselves at home and at work. There's a lot in here. That's not your exact wording, I don't think, but the idea that we can almost project our own insecurities onto other people and then have it come back at us, and then it looks to us like they're causing the problem. This is an eye-opening moment for, I think, a lot of people when they realize this is the case.
Well, I can illustrate it with a very simple example. You're at a party and somebody comes up to you haven't met before, or you go up to them and they're kind of nervous and insecure and they're kind of sweating a lot and their eyes are kind of blinking a lot. You find yourself getting very nervous in their presence, right?
Yeah.
You start even feeling a bit insecure. Maybe I'm causing that reaction. And that as I get insecure in their presence and my talking gets a little halting, the insecure person gets even more insecure. Like, this person isn't really interacting with me. Am I doing
weird around me? Yeah.
Yeah. And then it gets back and forth, back and forth. It gets worse and worse and worse. Or the opposite happens. You go up to that person, they're very confident. They're very secure in themselves. They're very calm. They have a calm energy. It just calms you down. And the conversation that ensues flows in this very natural, easy way. And then that person feels that you're kind of engaging. They engage more, on and on and on and on. So the idea is that we humans operate on a level that we're not aware of, which is on a nonverbal level, right? So we pick up the attitude, the vibrations, to use a 70s term.
Yeah, man.
From the
groovy.
You're on my wave. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I'm on your wavelength.
Okay. We pick those up from the other person in ways we're not even aware of, and it influences how we are. So your attitude towards life, you have an attitude, right? And I call it the way you look at the world. It's a lens. That attitude can be complex, but it usually has a single dominant component. It could be anxious. You're anxious about everything, worried. It could be insecure. People are looking at me strange. Do people like me, etc.?
I think I have all of those so far. Continue.
Okay. No, I hope not. Or your attitude can be very adventurous. Everything seems exciting to me. I want to explore there. I want to go there. You're very open to things, right? Okay. So when you have that attitude, it goes out in the world. People sense it in a nonverbal way, in that animal way. They feel it off of you, right? And then it makes them respond in a certain way. And so if you have that anxious attitude, you're going to create all kinds of situations that are going to feed your anxiety. Mm-hmm. It becomes what I talk about in that chapter, a self-fulfilling prophecy. You're going to find anxiety at every corner that you come upon, right? Because you're nervous, you're making other people nervous. You're supposed to take an action, you hesitate, and then it doesn't go very well because you hesitated. That makes you more nervous, etc. So you have to get the idea that you are sabotaging yourself with your attitude, right? And there have been some amazing books written on this aspect of human psychology that actually were kind of mind-blowing to me, to use another 70s expression. Mm-hmm. Sorry, man.
Oh, we still use that one.
Okay, yeah. All right. Things like the Pygmalion effect, which I hope in the next 20, 30, 40 years, people study more seriously in sciences and explain. But the idea is, in studies like teachers in schools, if a teacher thinks that the students are good and smart and deserving to go to Yale and Harvard and they're all brilliant, but never says anything about that, it's just they think it, it has an effect where the students work better, they get better grades, they're more excited. The attitude speaks to them, they feel it, right? So if you go up to somebody and you already anticipate that they're not very good, mm-hmm. that they're not, that they're not going to succeed in life, it's going to create that feeling in them. So you have the power to make people feel a certain way by the attitude that you have, right? And think of that attitude. So there's the bad news is you are born with an attitude. There's a genetic component mm-hmm. to it.
My kid is really careful. way
Yeah.
more careful than me.
Yeah, and that's something wired into
Mhm.
him or her. Him.
Him.
So
Soon to be a her in the picture, but that's yeah. We're talking about Jaden. He's the most careful baby at the park. He's very like, is this stable? And I know that's not exactly what you're talking about, but I
no,
mean, the
it
heart
is.
wiring is there.
Well, the classic example is an introvert or an extrovert.
Mhm.
And the man who came up with that was Carl Jung, the great psychologist. He believed that there was definitely a genetic component in that people are born with a tendency to being introvert or born as an extrovert. Now, naturally, the parent will have an influence on that. But that is very deeply ingrained into you, that attitude. So that's the bad news, right? That you're born a certain way.
Mhm.
If you're anxious, you're born with an anxious attitude. The good news is that you can change it. It's plastic. It has you can work around the edges, you can soften it, you can make it better. You're not going to, if you're anxious, you're not going to suddenly become this open adventure exploring type person. Okay, but you can become less anxious. You can realize that it's causing you problems, and then you can work to kind of alter this attitude, right? And so the first thing is you have to be aware of what your attitude is in life and the problem that it's causing and how it's infecting your relationships. And the second thing is to be aware of how you can take small steps to slowly begin to alter this attitude. So I tell people, for instance, who are born very anxious, and I understand that because I have a bit of that myself.
Yeah.
It doesn't paralyze me, but for some people it paralyzes them. What I suggest is tomorrow you do something that you're not quite comfortable with. Not too radical. You're not suddenly going to go out naked in the streets running, etc.,
Mhm.
right? You're going to do something that you normally, that's a little bit outside your comfort zone. It's a little bit different from what you would normally do. Let's say that's going up to a stranger in the office or at a social affair and engaging them in conversation. Normally, whoa, I can't do that. Do it. All right. And you'll find, so explore those margins of what you wouldn't normally do that aren't dangerous. That person isn't going to kill you, hopefully, for going up to them. But try these things out. They're going to be able to, you'll see that I don't need to be so anxious. And that by being open and wanting to talk to this stranger, they started talking to me on a level I've never experienced before. It's exciting, right? So that's sort of, your attitude is like your work of art. It's something you create. You're born with it, but you can change it, is the power that you have.